Welcome to Aligned with Kel Quarrel, the podcast where we talk all things small business. It's a mix of mindset, empowerment, real conversations, and of course, alignment. I'm your host, Kel Quarrel, a businesswoman with close to 20 years of business experience. Get ready for a mix of solo deep dives and inspiring interviews with awesome guests who will share how they have aligned their businesses with the lives they love. Let's dive in to align your business with the life you've always wanted. Welcome to another episode of Aligned with Kel Quarrel. Today, I am so excited to be joined by the incredible Danni Stevens. She is a woman who has mastered the art of juggling the worlds of business, motherhood, and personal well-being, with an ability to create systems and organization that leads to success in all areas of life. And that is something that I definitely need to know more about. She also has over 23 years of entrepreneurial experience and has also been in the top 1% of the world in network marketing. So Danni, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's just dive right in and start with a bit of an overview of your very extensive business journey. Where would you like to start?
Okay, so I'll start when I first began in business, which was at the age of 24. So doing the math, I turn 48 tomorrow, actually. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday for tomorrow.
Thank you. See, when I was 24, I wanted to start my own business, and I started in actually the beauty industry. So I am a beauty therapist by trade. So that was what I studied after school and did training for. Worked for somebody for a while, but quickly realized that I wanted to work for myself. Went into partnership and actually bought a franchise as my first business. So that was a great learning, and it was a great way for me to start because really all the systems are in place, all the marketing's done for you. I just had to focus on really good customer service and a good work ethic, which is what I do have. So I started, was actually in the waxing and tanning business. So back in the tanning days, I started that business. I had literally people lining up outside the door day in, day out to come and use, our solarium beds, like waxing and tanning them. And I sort of look back on that going, why was that so successful? And definitely because it was a system we followed. Every single person that walked into our salon knew exactly the service they'd get. They would always know their name. They knew what music was playing, what the vibe would be. They knew exactly how we clean the beds. They knew there'd be a minty on the pillow. They knew there'd be wet wipes. They knew exactly. It never changed.
Yes.
So that was 24 to 29. So I had that business for 5 years in partnership, had a great partnership with somebody, but my life was starting to go in a different direction. So my husband and I were wanting to start a family. And I thought, this isn't going to work with me running that business because I had to physically be there and I couldn't bring a baby to that workplace. And my husband also, he was a builder by trade. He wanted to have a bit of a break. And we had this great idea. Why don't we buy the leasehold and freehold of a motel? So we purchased a motel. So my business partner bought me out. We purchased a motel. The day we took over the motel, I found out I was pregnant. So that happened all very quickly. So I literally had that motel for 5 years as well. And during that 5 years, I had 2 babies. I worked that business 24/7. So from the day I came home from hospital, even having a baby, and again, I don't say this to give myself a medal because I'm not saying it's a great thing. It's just all I knew. I came home from the hospital. I was, stripping rooms. I was checking people in between breastfeeding, in between, doing all the things. So never, ever had a day off there either. So that was quite challenging, I will say. The great things were that I was, we're with the kids 24/7 and both of us were able to do that together, which is what we decided and why we did that. But after 5 years, it was literally great. I'm going to divorce you or we sell the business. We had to make that choice. So we went for the selling, not the divorce. And then I went into network marketing. So we moved I moved to a small seaside town, which is where we currently live. And I'm a worker. Like, I love working. I love working for myself. I love being financially independent, even though we share everything. I just like being able to contribute some way. And I came across network marketing. And again, I saw it as a really smart business model because, there are systems you can put in place that make your business work. You have this uncapped ability to create whatever income you want. It is, effort based. So I started that. Within 17 months, I did get to the top 1% of the company. I had a team of thousands of incredible women. I did this business too I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had that business for 13 years. So literally through, when they were toddlers to, teenagers, I had that business. And again, I put the success down to that business from a really, really simple system I put in place. Like, I created one for my team that I used, really simple, that a 5-year-old could do. And it worked, and I didn't have to work more. I just had to, share that. And I learned lots of lessons along the way too in that sort of business. But what I did find in doing that business is, with hundreds of women that I coached, so many people stopped, or so many people found it too hard or gave up because they couldn't run a business alongside having kids, alongside trying to run a home. And I'm not saying that the woman has to do everything here. That's not what I'm saying. But there is no communication, or nobody knows what their roles is, and things aren't working properly. It was easier for them not to do it than actually to do something differently.
Yep.
So that's then when I decided to create a membership and do coaching around teaching women, because I'd sort of found the formula and I'd put a system in our home and it worked. So that's when I decided to teach that alongside what I was doing. But unfortunately, with my network marketing business, it didn't really align with each other. They didn't sort of want me to run other businesses outside of that. So I had to make the decision on what I wanted to do. And I wanted to spread the message more of teaching women, not just in network marketing, just women in general, trying to either work a full-time job, trying to run their own business, or run multiple businesses, because I'm a passionate believer in having multiple income streams, not just one. But most people don't see how they can do it with everything else they've got going on in their life. So that's what I teach now, as the systems to put in place in your home.
Yeah. And one question that pops directly into my mind, and I'm assuming that, listeners will have the same question, is, have you always been a super organized person? I feel like there, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just not an organized person. Like, it's just not in my, it's not in my bones to be organized. Is that something you feel like you've always had, or is this something that you've strategically thought about and been able to implement as a system?
Yeah, it's strategically thought about and had to implement as a system, because I haven't always been organised. So, I mean, I've always loved it. I've been obsessed with it. Like, it's what I've always strived to have, but I never found like I could always maintain it, or I could never hold it, or things would then end up not being in their place, or not being where, I'd found them. So, I really had to, and even when I first had I'm going to go back to having a business on my own with no kids to worry about. I'm not saying I could have been more organised, but it didn't show up as much because I really just had myself. I didn't even have a pet or an animal at that stage. I was married to my husband, but he was, he had his own building business, and he played cricket and he played football and did all those things. My business was my baby. I spent all my time there. And then outside of that, I could just, go to the gym or do what I wanted to do. Add in kids, it was another story. And that's when I realized, that's when things did start to get a little bit out of control. And even in the motel, I felt like I was always just playing catch up. I was always just keeping my head above water, and it wasn't really working that well. So I had to really think about it, going, I know how to put systems in place. I can do that in businesses. Why can't I implement those things and put them in my home and treat my home like it is a business too? Because one thing I was going to say is, if we think about it, like, no one's taught us to do this, but if you think about all the departments in your home, we have a finance department, because someone has to run the finances, and look at that. We have this nutrition department, like, where most people in our homes eating 3 meals a day plus snacks. That's every day. there's got to be a bit of organisation to make that happen.
Yes.
There is that, a mental emotional well-being department. We've got to, we carry so much for our families and for our kids and trying to stop fights and things like that. Then we've got, travel department. If we go on holidays, who's organising all of that? Then we've got the cleaning
Cleaning
department.
department. The washing department, the laundry.
Yes, there is so much, and it doesn't just happen by accident, but it's where all the problems begin, because that can't go away. That's our everyday life. So we've got to put something in place to make sure, just like any business, that it runs smoothly every day.
Yeah, I love that. And that is just such a different way to look at the household, as departments. And you're so right. There's so many, and as you said, when you're a mother or you've got children, etc., we've also got social lives within those children. That's a whole other department, the sporting department, schools and the education
birthdays and Christmases and presents and who does it, and that's fine. But usually, and again, I'm going to stereotype here, usually it falls back traditionally on the female of the house, which that is okay too. Some people absolutely love that. There's lots of it I actually love doing. Like, I love feeding my family. I love looking out. Like, I love doing all those things. But again, if you look at a business, traditionally there is one owner or one leader or one CEO, or I like to call CEO, whatever, there is one that then can just, delegate or organize or give, to their team by who does what department and who looks after what. So I'm not saying you have to do it all yourself, but you've got to put a structure in place so you can delegate. Or again, we have expectations. Like, I could say to Grant, can you please vacuum the floor? His vacuuming the floor, I can tell, is very different to my vacuuming the floor.
I would imagine there's many listeners nodding their head right now.
So again, if that is the case, you want to delegate that role. What is the expectation? What does that look like? How often do you want it done? How, all those little bits and pieces, like, put some little systems in place there. So anyone could walk into your home and know how you like your washing done, or how you like the groceries done, or where you like this bought from, or what sort of meal, everything's, if it's systemized. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen overnight, it's a process.
Yes.
But imagine having all of that done, or things automated, or knowing if you went to go, I need the birth certificate, or I need to know where our passports are. Everything's in one place, or it's documented somewhere. Your life would be so much easier, just like a business.
Absolutely. Yes. And to then give you a bit more freedom and flexibility to do both, right?
Yep, 100%.
Is to not have the shit show at home and a great business, or in reverse. So I love that. What I'd love to kind of talk into, Danni, is your decision to leave your network marketing business, particularly when you were absolutely at the top of your game, and I think the number 2 income earner in Australia. To, like, what was the process of you choosing to step away from that, which I would imagine be a very, very healthy income, and fully step into your own business as you are now?
So I think a lot to do is there's a couple of things. One was, if you look at my history in business too, I'm a 5-year girl. So, and that's how, my attention, my excitement, I like new challenges and things. So I got to 13 years in network marketing, which is, it's a pretty long time in business for anyone, I do think. So maybe there was that little bit of boredom. The challenge wasn't as big, and I could have given myself more, like, I like goals to go for, but maybe I was past that in that industry. There was also decisions they were making as a company, which is great for the company, but it was not how I was aligned to working, or the way I wanted to work. So, that changed the game for me a little bit as well. And yeah, it was a very, very healthy income. And in full transparency too, the decision in a way was taken away from me. I didn't have to make it, which I'm so grateful for, because maybe I wouldn't have made that decision. They did say they didn't want me to run or do coaching alongside of, that business, and I can't charge people outside of my team and things like that, which I didn't agree with. Because as I said, I'm a big believer in multiple income streams. That I did wake up one morning and I went to log into my account and it said this ID is invalid.
Wow.
So so I woke up. I remember it was 6 o'clock on a Wednesday morning in October, and I sat down with my cup of coffee, jumped on my phone, went to log in, and I couldn't log into my account. And my first emotion was relief.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. And double back around
yeah,
to that.
very.
Yep,
Yeah, and then my second emotion was, I won't swear on here,
you
but
can.
was, okay, oh fuck, what am I going to do?
Yes,
Like, that was because this is a big income going, that, we've got multiple properties, we've got mortgages, we've got private school fees, we've got this, we've got that, and then that sort of started coming up for me. But I have done a lot of personal development and I've done a lot of personal growth. So again, I knew what I can handle and I knew what I'm capable of. So I really had to coach myself through that process going, remember what your first initial emotion was relief, because I was staying for the wrong reasons. I was staying for the money.
of course. Yes.
And which a lot of us make those decisions, but I know how to make money. I know how to make way more money than I did in a network marketing business. Like, I know what I need to do and what I'm capable of doing. So I was just hanging on to that for that safety, for that, it wasn't for the right reason. So again, I'm so grateful that was taken away from me. So I didn't have to maybe it's a cop out. I didn't have to make that decision in a way because it was gone.
Yeah, and just so interesting to me that relief
Mm.
was the first emotion. And I feel like, as you said, it's probably, well, I see it as just an incredible learning opportunity for you to then reflect on and say, that was the choice was taken away from me, but now I get to step back and say, wow, relief was the first emotion that I felt in that moment. And then it was, oh, fuck.
Mm.
Now, I would imagine there would be a huge majority of people listening to this episode that would be like, oh, shit, no, my first emotion, my first thought, the first words out of my mouth would have
Mm.
been, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
what am I going to do now?
Mm.
So I just love that. So once you sort of overcame that initial, like, okay, right, well, here we go, like, I'm relieved. And then through, coaching yourself through, what did you do next? What was your next step? Did you give yourself a reprieve and be like, okay, I'm just going to take some time now? Did you already know that, right, we're going all in on the
Okay,
coaching?
so 3 years earlier, and again, I'm gonna go a little bit, because I'm very intuitive and I listen to, my own thoughts and I listen to my own gut. So, um, 3 years earlier, I was walking along the bluff where I live, and I think I was listening to I don't even know what I was listening to at the time, but that's when I would call them downloads I get, and I just heard it was like a whisper in my ear say, "You need to start another business now." And that was 3 years earlier. So I'd already been,
Mm,
working and I've been creating courses. I'd been, selling them. I'd been building an email list. I'd been doing all those sorts of things, but I sort of felt like I was doing it a little bit undercover. It's like I couldn't be my true self. Um, so that was already sitting there. So really, I just got a little bit more visual. I had to really, and again, I coach a lot of this going, don't you've got to not worry what other people think. And that was always a thing that I know holds a lot of people back.
yeah.
And I really had to you've just got to be yourself, not worrying what other people think now, just let it go. But really interesting, the things that happened when that did happen, all of a sudden I was getting people in that company in the top 1 and 2% come to me going, can you do coaching with me? Because I'm allowed to now. Can you coach me because you know how to run one of the biggest businesses in Australia? Can you show me what to do? I'm like, sure. So quite interesting now that I do business coaching, especially for network marketers, because I know how to do it. I actually
Yes.
know how to, be a $1 million club achiever. Like, I know how to get to the top level of the company. It's not that hard. but now I can show them how. So that's what I do. So they sort of reached out, and then I also then launched a membership, which is what I do now, which is my main focus. And I love creating community, because that's, and that's what I did really in my last business too. I created this incredible community of thousands of women, all wanting sort of the same goal. And that's what I'm doing now with my membership. And I absolutely love it. So I started just getting a little bit more visible there. And then again, it was a grieving process. I'll be honest. It wasn't easy.
No.
It was a really, some days I'm like, what is this feeling I'm feeling? Like what? And it was because that was my identity for so long. So you've got to grieve that process. And it was this sadness, but I'm thinking, what am I even sad for? Because I don't want to be doing it. But it was just a grieving process of who I was, and then trying to get excited about, who I'm going to be.
Yeah, and I guess there's probably an element of that community that you had built. And I mean, I've also been in network marketing, and the people that you meet, I believe in network marketing, are some of the best in the world, right? And they run incredible events, and you have these incredible experiences, and there is a real sense of lifelong friendships formed in these communities. So I would imagine that kind of not being that leader of that community anymore, there is a sense of like, oh, that's
Mm.
all gone in a moment. Now, I'm sure that there's a lot of those people in that community that are still part of your community and your lifelong friendships now. But I would imagine there would have been a sense of kind of being on the outer, being lonely.
Absolutely. There's a lot that I am like, are my bestest friends that weren't even necessarily my team, people I've met through other teams. So, and who I'm still, great friends with now. But there's also people who I thought were my friends that disappeared overnight. And that was really an eye opener too. And there was a lot of, again, I'm not just going to stereotype the network marketing industry, but there's a lot of that cancel culture too. The minute you're out of something, which I could never understand. I used to see it happening when I was in the business too, and I would never have any part of it in my community at all. But when somebody leaves something and next minute they've blocked you or you're gone, and maybe I think it's a lot of fear they have, oh, they're going to steal my people, they're going to do something, or I think it's a lot of that. So I don't take it personally, and it's a reflection of them, not on me. But I'm like, that was quite interesting. Going, people I've gone on, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen so and so late, and I've gone, they've blocked me for doing something. I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm like, that was quite shocking. So there's that. You've got to go through that process as well. Or,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been really interesting.
And I just love that you see that as a reflection, as I would as well, and just learning opportunities, that it's absolutely nothing to do with you. But isn't it fascinating around that is such a scarcity mindset
I
to,
know.
and so you really start to think, wow, like they have got to a certain level in their business, and that's probably capped if that is their mentality and they are operating with this scarcity type energy.
Mhm.
It's always, there's always something to learn. And I think moments like that, you learn the most about yourself, but also
Yep.
about other
Yeah, and
people.
also where I need to do more work too, where sometimes some things did affect me. I'm like, hang on, I need to work more on that, because that shouldn't be affecting me like that. Or I shouldn't be worried about that. Or why am I still worried what people think in this area? Because I thought I got past that. So yeah, things still do pop up. But and again, I'm not I still think network marketing is a great industry if that's where you're at. For me, I've just outgrown it. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people are in it for life. For me, it got me to where I needed to go now. I'm grateful for every lesson I learned in that business, because I learned so many things about myself. I grew so much in that business too, because the work I had to do on myself, and I met the most incredible people as well. But I'm so ready for that next chapter as well of my life.
Yeah. And I do say that, the right network marketing companies honestly provide the most incredible opportunities for personal development and personal growth,
Yep.
even as you said, for the person that you need to become to make it work.
Yep.
But they do genuinely have incredible leaders and incredible people and incredible opportunities for you to really immerse yourself in
Mm.
personal development. And I know that that's where I absolutely deep dived into my own personal development journey. And I feel like you're definitely someone that thinks like me, is that when you're consciously aware of your thought processes and, perhaps your beliefs and your habits and your patterns, you can actually take a step back and go, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to be really curious about why I'm still doing that or why I'm still thinking that way.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that is what separates people from being really successful to people that are just perhaps unconsciously wandering through
Yep.
life.
Yep.
Would you agree?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people, and I've done it in the past, I'm sure. They sit in the being a little bit more of a victim as opposed to, it's like the blame game. Like I could sit there and blame that many reasons, for why this happened or but I've got no blame. Like I'm not a victim. I made the choice. I made the choice to, help other people and want to coach and do those things. It's my choice. Even though that idea was taken away from me, I chose for that to happen because I chose to still continue to do other things.
Yeah, and that's taking responsibility, right? And I think a lot of people just move through life without wanting to take any responsibility because it's challenging, because then you got to face the reality, right? So, yeah, I love that. Um, so let's talk about kind of this concept of running your household as a
Mhm,
business
mhm.
whilst running successful businesses at the same time.
Yep.
If you were to give any advice to someone that's like, I run a business, I run it successfully, however, you know, home life is somewhat in turmoil or
Suffering.
chaos,
Yep.
where would you suggest they could start? Like, how do they just really get going
Yep.
on bringing that into more alignment and calm?
I think the first thing you need to do is acknowledge all the things that you either do yourself or your household needs to run. So I can give you this as the link there. I do have a free PDF for anybody that wants a checklist. And what I've done is I've categorized the home into different sections so that there is the cleaning, there is nutrition, there is all the different sort of departments, finance departments, and go, well, what are all the roles that need to be done there? So I would say the first step is really getting rid of that mental load, because we carry so much in our head of all these thoughts, but we're not doing them. So dump everything out somewhere, going, what needs to be done? So even down to things, who waters the plants? The plants need watering, or the beds need making, or the dog needs feeding, or the dog needs walking, or the bathrooms, every single thing, the appointments that you need to make for the kids or the school or the sport or everything. So it
Everything,
does
yeah.
take a little bit of time, but I've created that as like a template to help people start the process off. So my first initial thing was get rid of the mental load, dump everything out into one place. And then you can even assign who does what. So if you're on your own, obviously you do all of it yourself, but at least you know what it is you do. If it's you and a partner, you can go, well, is it 50-50? Who's doing what? It's actually a great exercise to see how much you are carrying, because quite often you go, me, 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 me. Oh, yeah, you, me. Oh, yeah, and you. And then you go, no wonder I am exploding. No wonder I can't cope. No wonder my house is a shit show, because I can't do it all. It's like a full-time job and running a full-time job or multiple full-time jobs. We can't do it. So great place to start. Dump the mental load, assign who's going to do what. And then what I say, because I don't believe lists work at all, but I believe systems work, and
Yes.
allocating a time work. So after you have dumped everything out, you need to then allocate times on when that's going to happen. So does that happen daily? Does that happen weekly? Does that happen monthly? Or does that happen yearly? And even though I love a beautiful aesthetic diary, planner, all of them. Like I love writing, I love highlighting. They don't work. I've tried it for years and years and years. As pretty as it looks, you do not carry an A4 diary around in your pocket every day. You do carry your phone. So we need to assign everything a time or a place that it gets done, because I use my digital calendar. So I use Google Calendar, but if it's not in there, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything, even from sleep, like I write what time I want to go to bed, what time I wake up, what time I do my morning routine, what time I make dinner, what time I do groceries, what time I meal plan. Like everything goes in there, if that's my role, in my calendar. And that's the way that things didn't get missed. And then sometimes it's a great exercise to go, I actually don't have enough time to do all of this. or I only have an hour a week to spend on my side hustle, or I'm not exercising, but that's a priority. Where am I going to fit that in? Like, so all of those things. So I would definitely say dump it first, put it somewhere in a calendar, and then I would then go on to, which is what I teach, is create systems for every single thing you do.
Yeah, and it brings everything to your awareness, right? And then you can be absolutely
Yep.
realistic around, well, okay, this is why I'm in burnout. This is why I'm cranky all the time. This is, like all of those things. I also think, I love when you said I even put down what time I want to go to bed and what time I want to get up. Like, I think that's really interesting because I am an early riser purely because I prioritize moving my body first thing in the morning. And I have a rough idea around when I would like to be in bed. But I think actually scheduling that and being very clear on that, it also sets the intention of you being able to be like, no, this is when I've worked
Mhm.
out how I work best. And so, yeah, it's just something to work towards.
Towards, yeah, and I'm flexible. Like, not everything happens every day the right way, but as you said, the intention's there. I've given it time, and if I haven't done it, I can move and go, well, where else can I fit this in and find time somewhere else?
Yeah,
Super important too. If you really need time for yourself, or you do need time to go and have a massage or a facial or go for a walk, or schedule it in when you're going to do it. I schedule when I'm going to eat, otherwise you just don't get time to eat properly or prepare the meal or drive somewhere or whatever it is. And it sounds a little bit over the top, but honestly, and it's funny, I just was working with a coaching client recently, and we did this as the first exercise. And she's running multiple businesses, really high end achiever. She's like, this feels a little bit suffocating or a little bit too
yes.
what was the word?
Rigid?
Rigid? No, she said it was very, I can't think of the word she used. And then she said, but I'm open. I'm paying Danny to help me. She knows what she's doing and she's done it. And she's like, this has literally just doing the diary thing. She said, you have changed my life. I don't even know how I was functioning before.
Yes.
And she said, "Oh, it's like I love it and I'm obsessed with it now." But she said, I felt like I'm a smart woman. I don't need to do this. I'm like,
Yes.
you do need to do this because you're a smart woman.
And that's exactly why you're doing it. And I think sometimes there is, for a lot of women, they feel like they're going to lose their sense of freedom and flexibility by being so scheduled and by being, I think for me, the word was like, oh, it seems really rigid. But I know myself with how I schedule, it is creating more freedom and flexibility and choice, because if something does come up, you're like, okay, I can pull that out and I can put it somewhere else,
Yep.
which will still ensure that it gets done and then, the wheels don't fall off.
Mhm.
But when you start to really educate people that the more that you are very clear on what are the roles and responsibilities and have it scheduled, you're actually generating more freedom and flexibility in the
Way
calendar.
more, way more. And even then, when you do get down to the nitty-gritty of it all too, when people do want to then go into their homes and going, I want that, not even just the time scheduling, actually organizing space and things. Do you know how easy it is when you're running out the door where you know something is to grab it, that you're not spending 10 minutes screaming at the kids or trying to find something, or knowing when they walk in the door where they put their bag, where they chuck their shoes, where everything is. Do you know how it changes your life? Like,
Mm,
it just creates so much more calm. It just creates and it's just that structure. It's just so much easier in life when those things are happening. Or that if you, like for me, so I was traveling a lot in my network marketing business too.
yes.
Do you know how good it was to be able to just walk out the door and know that I didn't have to be cooking meals for a week and getting everything done and trying, but just to go out the door and feel like I need a holiday, then come back to try and fix it all up again as well. Like, I didn't have to do that because I'd already had those systems in place.
And I really want to talk about this because I know there's going to be women in particular listening to this episode and they're like, oh, yeah, it's all fine for Danni because she's been doing this. And there's no way that my teenage kids are going to get on board with a system of putting their school bag here and their shoes there. And
Mm.
so let's talk into that. And you did say before that it's going to take time.
Mhm.
If there is a woman in business that is running, multiple businesses and is feeling like home is I need to always catch up. I'm always chasing my tail. There's never enough hours in a day. All of that type of feeling. And they've got children and maybe they are young, but let's go, they're teenagers. So we feel like maybe the habits are already ingrained. Where would you say, where do you start in getting people in the household on board with new
Yep.
systems around responsibilities and roles?
Yep. So for me, I've got teenagers and I've got two that learn very, very differently. So I've got a son that visually needs to see everything. It's like I could say to him, and he's nearly 16, I
Mhm.
could say to him, Finn, go and brush your teeth, do this, do this, do this. Same thing you'd say every single day. He'd come
Yes.
back and he's done one thing. He literally cannot,
Yep.
take on any more than that. So for me, I do have old school, even though I've got everything in systems in a productivity system. We use Trello. You can use all different ones. I also do have in my kitchen I call it a command center. It's literally I think $20 board from Kmart. Yeah,
Yes.
that I have up there. But I visually have to put in there what's for dinner on each day. What, like a morning routine could be what my expectations are to do before you walk out the door, those sorts of things. So for him, it has to be something visual that he can go in and say without having to ask me, because I don't want to hear the words, Mum, what's for dinner? Mum, what do I have to do? Mum. So for me, that works there. So that, depends on how your kids learn. Then I've got a nearly 18-year-old daughter who I could have a conversation with and tell her my expectations. I don't have to ask her again. She'll get that done. So that's, she's a dream child in that way. But what I would suggest you do, if you do have older children, is do have and set aside a time, maybe on a Sunday night, maybe on a Sunday morning, one day a week for half an hour, and sit down and go, right, I sit down and go, here's my diary. Guys, what have you got on this week that I don't know? Like, I know when all their sports are, I know, do I need to drive you anywhere, pick you up anywhere? Could it be me? Could it be dad? Like, have that conversation and plan your week. Put aside a half an hour. And I know it seems maybe annoying at the start, but you'll get used to it. And it's part of it is go, this is what I want you to cook dinner this night, or I want you to do this, or this is what I expect. This is where I'll be. And have those conversations, because again, the communication and the expectation is the best place to start, so they know what you're expecting. Because I can't tell you how many fights I've had with my husband and with my kids going, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know you wanted me to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great, you know, we started that, and I will say we've dropped off on
Mhm.
that, but that is a super beneficial thing. And ours generally was, Sunday evening, we would sit down and be like, right, who's got what on and where do we need to be, and at those times. What about household chores?
Yep.
Like, how did you get them on board with, and how do you determine whose role is what? Like, I just know there's going to be so many people listening to this going, but how?
Yeah. Again, probably with the kids, it started off going, these are the jobs I want you guys to do. Who's going to pick what? And you can start off, it doesn't have to be the same thing for, the next year. It could be this month, right? Who's going to be doing the dishwasher? Who's going to be walking the dog? Who's going to be sweeping, the front door? How often are they going to do it? Like those, who's putting the bins out and going, that's their jobs. I didn't do too much at once, because otherwise, again, it's too much of their brains. It started off literally, Finn, you put the bins out every Sunday night. Gracie, you walk the dog every whatever it is. And then we started there. Then we added on and added on and added on. And now my kids are older too. It's like, well, this is how I want a bathroom cleaned. This is my expectation, guys. You have to take it in turns now of doing the bathroom, and this is when I want it done by. If it's not, if I end up doing it, then obviously all hell breaks loose. But this is my expectation. So, I had to start off that way, not giving them you can't change everything all at once, because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. So just start with small little things and then add on and add on to that's what they know. Sunday night, they know that we're going to have a meeting, or, we know that's what we're going to have to, talk about, or that's probably where I would start doing it that way. Or their
Yeah.
rooms, there's an expectation of their room. And guys, well, if you don't do it, you tell me what's the consequence going to be. Get them to
That
give you
okay,
one.
so that's where I was gonna was gonna be my next question. So is there a reward consequence type situation? And the other thing was, do they need reminding? Do they need reminding
Um,
of the time? How do they get their reminder?
Yeah, so again, that's where for us visually, I put it on that command center board because it's there and
Yeah.
they know that it's been done. And so say like with Finn was a big one too. We said, if we don't want to have to ask past 4 o'clock on a Sunday, if those bins aren't out, right, the consequence will be, I'm just trying to think for him, his is more, he likes to, go surfing, go skiing, go, you know, the sport type of thing. So that, we won't be going to a certain place or we won't be putting money aside for that. Like there's got to be a bit of an exchange because we don't mind doing all those things for you, but we need that little bit of respect both ways. You're old
Yes.
enough now. So again, it's not, and this isn't punishment. This, I believe, is setting our kids up for themselves, for their own homes. Because I was thinking about this too growing up. We did jobs and did things, but there wasn't, although no, in saying that, in fairness, mum did show us how she liked the kitchen cleaned down overnight, and that was our job, and we had to do exactly how she wanted it. So she did teach us those things or teach us how to cook a meal. What's your favorite meal? I'll teach you how to cook that meal. But usually we don't get taught how to run a house. So I think we're giving our kids the skills to set themselves up if they want to run businesses, to put in systems in
Absolutely.
place, how to run their own home. I'm not doing it for punishment. I'm doing it, to help them as well.
And I think that those skills are transferable, right? So, like if they're going to go and get their first job as a teenager, like understanding, time, responsibilities, what their tasks are to be independent at work. Like if you
Yep.
had a teenager come in that, if you were someone that owned a bricks and mortar business and you had a teenager that come in that could take on the responsibility of like, here's the task list, this is when it's got to be done, and just get in and do it.
Mhm.
I mean, that would be like a dream for a
Mm.
lot of business owners, I'm sure. And so I think part of it is educating your children and having the conversation and communicating with them that this is a skill set that is going to be, transferable, not just when you move out of home, but
Yeah,
also
in the
running
workplace.
businesses or in the workplace.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's Gracie does work at a job, and I was speaking to the owner, like, she is just, and it was like great feedback for me, but she's like, and he said, "I'm not just saying this to pump her tires, like, she's an incredible worker." I watched her, she got down on her hands and knees and was cleaning underneath our fridges. Like, what 17-year-old is thinking without being asked to go and do that because she had some spare time, or is out cleaning windows, or is out, she said, they said everything is spotless. She doesn't have to be asked to do things. She just takes it upon herself to do them. And I thought, isn't that great that she's using, again, those skills that I'm like, don't walk past something and just go, oh, mum's going to pick that up. Like, have a little bit of thought and respect for your own home. That if
Yes.
people walked into your home, you'd be happy for them to go and be proud of your home and what it looks like. Like, you take on that as well as me, and don't just, have that expectation that I'll be doing it.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to ask what your values are in business.
Oh, okay. Um, okay. So my values, I'm big on, and I don't know if these are values or not, so you'll have to help me along here. I would say like authenticity is being, you'll always see. So if you see me speaking here, it'd be the same as how you'll see me speaking on the street. If you saw me speaking up on stage, you'll get exactly the same person.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'd
That's
say that is
definitely a
one of my
value and
values,
definitely something
honesty.
that I can see in
Um,
you for sure.
inclusive, is this word inclusive? I can't say the word. What's the word when you include?
Inclusivity?
Yeah, that's it, that one, yeah.
Inclusivity?
So
Yeah. Yep.
making a big value of mine is making sure everybody feels seen and valued and included. I'd hate, especially in my community, my big thing is not anybody feeling like they can't speak up or can't say their truth or are not seen. Like, I hate speaking at people. I want people to feel like they could come to me with anything.
Yes.
So that's a big value of mine as well.
Yeah, I love that. And how do you ensure that, what you're doing within your membership and your business and your coaching, how do you really ensure that what you're creating and building within your business aligns with those values?
I just make, well, I always asking for feedback from people, and I'm open to feedback. And what they need more of from me, what I can help with. Just like in coaching, I'm like, what is it you need from me this week that's going to
Mhm.
help you get to your goal? It's the same in my membership. What are you, like, I actually just did a post just then, just asking, what are you struggling with this week? that anybody in this group could maybe help you with. And then I shared one of the struggles that I was having and my solution I'm coming up with. If anybody else has got any solutions, I'm open for it as well. So making sure that it's not just me speaking, people can actually, because I think learning from each other is so super important as well. People are going to learn a lot more from other people in the community than just me. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
so I sort of do that, making that conversation open in the Facebook group.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, when authenticity is one of your highest values, and if you're truly living into that, then, people learn from seeing you for you. And if you're, open and vulnerable enough to share your own challenges as well as your successes, they feel the authenticity, because
Yep.
it's like you're not up here and they're down here. It's like, hey, I'm going through the same challenges, or
Yep.
you know, um,
And again, that's a lesson I learned in network marketing. I think because I was up there um, a title they give you, it's so interesting the perception people have of you that then they can't come and speak to you. And I'm like, this is not good. Like I'll never forget walking into a room once at an event because somebody had earned a car. And so I was going to this event and I remember walking in and everybody looked at me and turned their backs on me. And I was standing there and I'm like, I felt like no one in the room liked me. I'm like, I didn't know what to. I'm like, no one wants to speak to me. No one likes me. And so I went downstairs and I rang a friend going, are you far away? Like everyone's just turned their back on me. What have I done? Like I didn't understand. I went back up. I went, no, Danny, grow up, go and speak. So I went up to a table and went, oh, hi, I'm Danny. And then like, oh my God. And then I realized they were more intimidated by me. I'm like, oh my,
yes.
please do not think that. And then I realized what I had to do to break down those barriers and those walls. I don't want anyone to feel like they couldn't speak to me or not, not look at me or not ask me a question.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same. I've been told by mentors over the time that, particularly within She Can, my other company, is that we are too honest and we share too much.
Yep.
And I reject that, because I just think, through sharing of, what we're experiencing, but also experienced, and our stories,
Mm-hmm.
that just lets people know that you're just all on the same journey. We're all just
Yep.
humans bumping
Yep.
around, generally making shit up as we go,
Yep.
and doing the best with what we've got. And so, one of my highest values is community. And I think being able to really form closely bonded communities is through sharing, right?
Absolutely.
And, not always being that person that looks like they've got their shit together,
Mm-hmm.
because more times than not, we don't.
No,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So I wanted to say a massive thank you for joining me. I think there's been so much value that you've given the listeners of this episode. We will pop all of your contact details and where people can find you in the show notes. But where is it that you hang out most? Like, if someone wanted to come and find a little bit more about you and what you do, where would they go first?
So I'd go to Instagram. So dannistevens.co. So DANNI, Stevens with a PH.co is where I share most of my content about, organisation, about systems, about home management over there, and about my membership. It's all, really in Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram seems to be the platform these days.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I will pop all of Danny's contact details in the show notes, and I will also grab the link for that PDF to Danny. We'll pop that in the show notes as well, because I think that would be super valuable, particularly for women that are just starting out and they're just like, the job just seems too big. I don't know where to start. That sounds like an incredible resource to get people going. So I love that. But I just want to say a massive thank you. And it's been an honor and a pleasure. And Danny's also been an industry expert inside my membership, Borderline Business. And I know the members and those that have watched the recording since have got so much value out of it. So I want to thank you for that as well. But until next time, go and have a beautiful day. And I will see you on the next episode of Aligned with Cal Coral.
Thanks, Cal.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Aligned with Kel Quarrel. I hope our conversations have inspired you to be bold in the pursuit of your dreams. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with the business women in your life and took the time to leave a review. Your feedback is like an ice-cold glass of Prosecco, always welcomed and always appreciated. You might even consider giving the show a follow. Until next time, continue to take bold action towards aligning your business with your deepest desires.